What's up, guys? We're here again today at HardRacing, working on our aRacer series, which is going over the initial setup and the app and how it all works. So now, back out here, now we're over 60 degrees, so everything's good. So now you're going to go swipe over, calibration, fuel base, and the fuel, obviously, you set this to adjust it where you want your air-fuel ratio to start at. So obviously we're in the 14 range. You can go down, gonna lower it into your cutting fuel basically, which will raise the air-fuel ratio, basically making it leaner. You can add fuel, now make it richer. All of this is something you custom set up based on what you've done with the bike and how it's running. So the key here is what injector you have on it, what throttle bar you have on it, what modifications, what big bore kit, what exhaust. There's limitless options out there, combinations that you can do together. So obviously this has to be tweaked by the user, dialed in to their personal preference. And once you get the air-fuel ratio where you want it, which is generally in the 13 range to start with, then you're going to go over to your target AF, make sure those are all generally going to be 13.3s. And go left. And basically these are your auto-tune where it's going to target those air-fuel ratios. For stock trim, this is pretty good. For a big bore kit, you're generally going to want to lower the air-fuel ratios a little bit in the 75 and 80% area. But again, this is all personal preference. The key to doing this is your temperatures. The temperature of the bike is going to dictate a lot of where these are going to go. So if you're running really, really hot, then that means your air-fuel ratios are way too high. Running lean. So basically you want to lower those down to get to your optimal temperatures for your motorcycle, which generally are going to be below 240 while you're riding around. The key here is to keep, this is again, most of this for guys that don't have a big bore kit, just leave it, set the auto tune, go ride, and custom build your map and call it a day. All this I'm talking about now with tweaking all this stuff is going to be when you have big bore kit, and it's a lot more detrimental to make sure you're running proper air-fuel ratios and proper temperatures. Make sure that your wideband closed loop is off right now. Here's where you can set your RPM limit. Most of the time for stock setup, 96 is good. Obviously, anything over that is on you. You're just going to be pushing the limits. So make sure that you don't go crazy and just rev it all the way up to 12, 13 grand and blow up your motor. You're getting a lot of control over this, so you have to be respectful that the engine can only handle so much. So if you're not sure, don't go too crazy with it. So go to auto tune. You're going to turn your auto tune on. And now what you're going to do is you're going to go out and ride. And the more you ride, the more RPMs you do up and down through all the rev range, the more accurate it's going to be and the more it's going to build a tune specific for your setup. In other words, if you never hit 100% throttle while you're out riding, then it's never going to be able to monitor 100% and it's never going to be able to make changes in 100%. So the goal is to ride throughout the revs, throughout the throttle. So the best way to do that is to not just go hit the interstate. The best way to do that is to drive around town, stop and go traffic, then try to hit some back roads. But a lot of riding, up and down elevations, different throttle. That way it gets a good reading throughout your rev range, throughout your throttle position. Basically the entire map will get read. Sometimes a good way to do it also is if you can find a long road out in the middle of nowhere. Basically you put it in like third or fourth gear at about 20 miles an hour, put your foot on the rear brake a little bit, and slowly roll the throttle on, as if you're on a dyno. You're basically doing a Mach dyno. So you roll the throttle on so that it slowly goes through the revs, and you're using your foot brake just a little bit to create a little bit of resistance so that you don't just go straight into from 3 grand all the way up to 9 grand in like a second. The goal is to slowly go through the revs so it has time to read and monitor every single cell and make it changes accordingly. And then once you get back, you're going to basically have a custom tuned on that setup. Now if you turn your key off, it's going to save that to your map. And you can save it also manually in there, go in and hit save. Maps, and you can also save it there as well. And the goal is to get it auto-tuned set up to where everything is changed, where it's good, and then you turn the auto-tune feature off, so it's not always trying to build a custom map. Once you turn the auto-tune feature off, then it's not going to keep replacing your map every time you come back and turn the ignition off. Then what you would want to do is go into calibration and turn on the wideband closed loop. Now what that'll do is do small minor changes while you're riding around when you have variations in temperature, variations in fuel, variations in altitude, just small changes. It will micro adjust it and really make your setup run perfect. But it's not going to permanently change the map like the auto-tune does. This is just for small little changes based on that day, the fuel, the temperature, altitude changes, if you happen to go up in the mountains or whatnot. You don't have to leave that on. You can also turn that off, but that is a feature that is a lot of guys use and works really well. But the key here is once you've built your auto-tune map, is to turn that off, save it onto the file, and then go use the closed loop at your discretion. And of course, now once you've changed modifications, added a new exhaust, added a camshaft, built the motor up, then you go back into auto-tune and create a new map, custom made for your new application. Once it's saved it, and you've gotten a good 45, 50, 60 minutes out riding around, and you've gotten a complete set of new parameters saved in there, and it saves a new map, save that as a new map file, and then again turn the auto-tune off. And that's the kind of the beauty of this, is you can always tweak stuff as you modify it. You don't have to go in and then connect to a laptop or anything. It's all done through your app. And some other really cool features here, obviously, you got the idle, you got your RPM limit. Some of these, now a lot of guys are going to be like, well, what all these other stuff? Not everything is applicable for every bike. So if you don't have a coolant fan, then don't worry about that. If you don't have a quick shifter, don't worry about that. So just keep that in mind. This app is for every bike out there, and not all of them feature for yours. Another cool feature, if you have changed your gears, your sprockets, front and rear, you can change your gear ratio to be able to figure out how much of exact change you've made, what percentage. Or even better way to do it is to go out and ride follow a chase car doing 45, 50 miles an hour compared to what your reading is on your speedometer, or you can use a GPS device. Either way, you're just basically trying to find a reference. So if the true speed of the vehicle is 50, but your speedometer is showing 56, then divide 50 divide 56, and that gives you how much to take off or add to your speedometer. So that's also a pretty cool feature. Spark angle, also known as ignition timing. This is very important. If, in our opinion, of course it's just our opinion, if you have a big bore kit, high compression piston of any form, then having ignition timing is going to cause more heat and potential detonation, which then overheats your piston and damages the motor. In our opinion, we always put zeros for all ignition timing on a big bore kit. Some people out there may advance the timing and try to push it, But in our opinion, if you have a big bore kit, all these should be 0. If you have a stock piston, then most guys will do like 4 or 6 degree advance on that. But again, if you have a big bore kit, we highly recommend leaving them all at 0. Fuel pump accelerator, most guys don't really use that. And then obviously all this stuff, all these features here can be tweaked on how you want the layout to look, where the cells are, what output. And again, if you go to the light, you have less stuff, less clutter on it. And remember, all of this, you don't have to use this while you're riding. This can all be done, you know, in the parking lot, set it, and then go. You don't even have to leave this on all the time. This is just for if you want to monitor everything, if you want to see everything. And you can also log as well. Go to log, and you can actually create right here, start data logging. And now it's logging everything. So when you're done, you can come back and look at the file and see what your air-fuel ratios were, see what your throttle position was at what RPMs, and you can also tweak it there. It's really, the sky's the limit on how much you want to tinker and tweak with everything, but it's very easy interface and user-friendly, so it's just a matter of just taking your time and kind of learning everything as you go. But everything's pretty straightforward. It's basically like buying a new iPhone or a new Droid the first time. Instead of reading directions for an hour or 2, you just go and fiddle with it and you start figuring everything out. Alright, so that sums up this video right now. We are going to make more videos as we go. We'll have more coming up, so be sure to click the subscribe button down there and the bell right next to it for reminders, so that way you get notified when we make a new video. Please be sure to comment. Leave a comment down there below. Let us know what you think, future videos. Any ideas for other stuff, questions you have, we will be sure to reply back. And of course, if you have any other questions, comments, or whatever you need help with, be sure to give us a call. Check out our website at HardRacing.com. We're also on forums, Facebook, Instagram, and we will get you taken care of.